I am surprised by just how much I have enjoyed using this camera. This is the new Fujifilm X-S20. This is the follow-up to the X-S10. This is definitely aimed at kind of all-rounder shooting. This is a hybrid system, definitely, so photo and video, great for content creators. But, you know, the size and the weight means it's great for travel. It makes a great everyday camera. You know, just pop it in your bag, don't think too much about it, and just take it out wherever you go. Street photography is nice and subtle. There's a lot that this can do, but this is significantly more capable than I was expecting. And actually, even with some really good specs, which we'll get into in a second, this feels great. I have really liked using this. There's a lot that you could do with this. I'd feel comfortable going out on client shoots with this camera. I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't mentally prepared to be as impressed as I am with this camera. So let's get into exactly what this camera actually is. As you can see, it's nice and small, nice and lightweight. It's very, very easy to just take this out and about, as I said before, which is nice, but it still feels good in the hands, right? Nice deep grip, especially for such a small camera. And the buttons are very ergonomic. You have a joystick on the back, which I like. I always love a joystick. I just think it's fantastic. But you've got a touch screen as well, which flips out, flips all the way around if you want to film yourself as well, or do selfies, or do vlogging, or anything like that at all. Otherwise, you've got the kind of Fujifilm feel to this. And I think it works fantastically. There's not too many buttons. There just don't need to be. And it's very controllable very easily. In terms of specs, this is definitely a hybrid system through and through. So whether you're shooting photo or video, you'll definitely get some really nice stuff out of this camera. But I'm actually really impressed by some of the stuff this camera can do. So you're looking at a 26.1 megapixel APS-C CMOS sensor in here. You've got the X processor 5 as well. So the camera is nice and sort of snappy, it's quick, it's getting through the menus, autofocus, all that kind of stuff works nice and fast, which is great. That's also a big enough resolution to allow you to crop your photos a little bit if you want to as well. There's enough there, so you're not really losing too much detail. The colors also look fantastic, which isn't a massive surprise because this is a Fujifilm camera, and generally speaking, they tend to be very, very nice. Also, the dynamic range just is very, very workable, right? So out taking photos, lots of different weather conditions as well. So mainly a lot of sun, very bright sun. So I've been shooting in things like the forest to try and combat such aggressive sun. But that means you get a lot of shadows and a lot of highlights. And it's been working with those really, really well. No problems at all editing those, or in fact, just using some of the film simulations in the camera. Now, if you're someone who doesn't want to edit, or you just want a stylized image from the camera, you've got 19 film simulations now. These are so nice to play around with as well. These are not just kind of filters that look a bit rubbish. These are really, really nice. If you've never tried them out before, they are lovely. And there's lots of different interesting ones, black and white ones. You know, the Acros one in particular, I really like. The Film Eterna simulation, which is great for video. It gives you a nice kind of cinematic look to stuff, but lots of stuff to play around with in there. It's also a lot faster than I thought it would be for continuous shooting. So you're looking at 8 frames a second for mechanical shutter, which isn't bad. And then you 20 frames a second for the electronic shutter, and that's blackout free as well. So that's fantastic for wildlife, for sports. I didn't expect that. I wasn't ready for that. So photography side of things, lovely. And I've got to say, actually, some cameras just feel really nice to go out and take photos with. This is absolutely one of those. I just had such a blast. I think it's to do with the size and the weight. I think it's to do with the kind of ergonomics of the buttons and just the feel of Fujifilm cameras. They just feel really nice. This is no exception. Now, like I said, this is a hybrid system. Let's talk about video, because this is more capable for video than I thought it would be. Up to 6.2K, 30 frames a second. That's pretty impressive. 4K, 60, 1080p, 240. So you get some really nice slow motion there if you want to use that. You can shoot up to 422 10-bit as well, which is really nice. And even ProRes or Blackmagic RAW output via the HDMI. So there's a lot of options there for professional video. When I think about the camera I first used for client stuff for video, this would have blown my mind. So whether you're shooting, you know, vlog stuff, whether you're shooting this kind of stuff, YouTube content, or whether you are going out and shooting client stuff, there's a lot of scope for using this as a professional camera, which is exactly what I wasn't expecting, because, you know, it doesn't maybe come across as something you would use as a professional tool. Now, I've been pretty positive about the X-S20 so far, and it's deserved. It's a lovely camera. I really enjoyed using it. One area where I had a little bit of trouble though was the autofocus, specifically in video. Now, before I go any further, the autofocus, when it came to photography, really gave me no issues at all. I was really able to use it exactly the way I wanted to. It didn't seem to have any trouble. It would lock on. It wasn't sort of doing all loads of hunting or anything like that. When it came to video, I did a little bit of a test. Now, admittedly, I did try to make it quite hard for the camera. So zoomed all the way in on the 18 to 55 lens to give as much kind of lens compression as possible, moving around the frame, moving backwards and forwards, but it did lose me a couple of times. There were a couple of instances where it wasn't able to keep up and actually track me through the frame, and instead it would focus on the background, then come back to me and stuff like that. Now, I think in a situation where you were filming something like this, that just wouldn't really present much of an issue because I'm stationary. I think in a situation where maybe you were filming an interview or something like that, again, it probably wouldn't present any kind of issue like that. But it was kind of the one negative that I had. I noticed it a couple of times while filming, but it did seem to be, at least for me, specific to the video mode while I was filming. But one thing that did make shooting video, especially handheld, a lot easier is the IBIS. You've got in-body image stabilization up to 7 stops. So this is very, very usable handheld while out shooting. And this isn't a case of on paper, it looks great, but actually when you use it, it's not that fun or it's not that good. This does feel really nice to go out and shoot with. And like I said earlier, it feels really nice in the hands, nice deep grip, ergonomic button placement. And with things like the flip out screen, which I really like, some people don't like it, but I really like that. And the viewfinder looks good as well. Now the specs certainly live up to being able to use this professionally, but where you start to see this more as an enthusiast camera is maybe in some of the choices in the body, which I understand because you've got the X-T5, you've got the X-H2, you've got the X-H2S for that kind of stuff. So for example, there's only one card slot, which is by the battery. It's a shame. It's nice to see 2 card slots, but then again, I mostly just use 1 card anyway. So I think for the type of camera and the type of audience this is aimed at, I think that's probably fine. You've also got some decent connections on here as well. So mini HDMI, USB-C, microphone, headphone, which is quite nice. Battery life as well seems to be pretty decent. I've gone out on about 3 different shoots, only charging it the one time at the very beginning. So that's not bad actually. And if you were going to take this traveling or something like that, I think you'd be able to get some good use out of it without having to worry too much about going back to charge just constantly. Now you can probably tell I really enjoyed using this camera. I'm a big fan. I think this is probably a fantastic camera for most people. I think unless you need something specific, this is going to fulfill pretty much every need you might have. And if you're looking specifically in the APS-C space, this is lovely. This is really, really nice. Yes, there are reasons to go for the X-T5 and certainly things like the X-H2 or the X-H2S, but I think for most people, for an everyday camera, or even as a second camera to the X-T5 or something like that, this is great. This is just a really, really nice option. And there's a lot of different lens options as well for the kind of stuff you might want to shoot, whether it is something like this is the 18 to 55, whether it is something like the new 8mm if you want a nice wide angle, or whether you want to go for something telephoto and take advantage of that 20 frames a second blackout free shooting. I mean, that is pretty impressive stuff. Now you can check out this camera for yourself by following the link down in the description, pricing, full spec, all the fun stuff. If you're looking at getting a new camera in this kind of space, I think that this is just such a fantastic option. So definitely worth checking out that link. Go and see all the interesting, fun, super technical things. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe. New content all the time, tutorials, reviews, all kinds of fun stuff. I'll see you next time. But until then, as always, thanks for watching.